Hey, so this is the last video that I'm going to be doing on factorising quadratic equations. And for this video, we're looking at coefficients and variables at the beginning. So rather than it just being that x squared at the beginning, we're actually adding a number in front of it. And this means that the process of working out what is in our brackets is going to be slightly different than our previous videos. Now, I have done other videos going right back to basics of factorisation. So if you're not familiar, then go and watch those ones. So rather than the other videos where I've kind of given you an overview to begin with of what we're going to do, we're just going to go straight into it and try and work our way through it because it is slightly different. The one thing that does remain the same is the numbers, the two numbers that are inside those brackets, they are both going to multiply to create that last number. So we are going to be looking at two numbers that create the number 3. So let's go ahead and start by drawing our brackets. We're going to start by looking at that 2x squared. Now in this case it's relatively simple because we're looking at, okay, what two numbers multiply together to create the number 2? Well, it's going to be 2 and 1. Therefore I know that that's going to be 2x in there, and then there's just going to be a single x, 1x in that bracket. If you had, say, the number 6 there, you would be looking at, could it be 1 and 6? Could it be 2 and 3? So there are more options in which you'd have to kind of go through trial and error and try and figure it out. But in this case, it's relatively simple. We know that it's going to be a 2x in one bracket and an x in the next. The next thing we're going to be looking at is that number 3. So what two numbers do we multiply together to get that number 3? Well, we know that it's going to be 1 and 3 or 3 and 1. Now, the order in which we write these in the brackets, whichever one we put in the first bracket and which one we put in the second bracket, is really important, especially when we're working with this type of equation, because it will change the answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the incorrect one first, just so you can see how it will impact our answer. Now, you might notice that I haven't mentioned 7x at all. It's because when we're doing factorising with this type of equation, where we're working with coefficients with that x squared at the beginning, your numbers that are multiplied together to create that 3 do not add up to make 7. I know it's very frustrating. So again, it's a little bit of trial and error. So in this case, we've got some relatively simple numbers to work with. So there's not much for, if we make one mistake, we know it's going to be the other. So let's go ahead and do the incorrect one first, just so you can see the impact that it has. And then we can kind of rewind and go back and do the correct one. So I'm going to choose to start with, why not, +3 and +1. So I've put 2x plus 3 in my first bracket and x plus 1 in my second bracket. Now what we're going to do is what we always do with our brackets. We're going to expand them out, and then once we've grouped everything together, see if we've created the same equation as we have to begin with. If we haven't, then we need to go back and reassess. So we're going to start by doing 2x multiplied by x. That's going to give us 2x. Then we've also got 2x squared. Then we've got 2x multiplied by 1, which is going to give us 2x. Then we've got 3 multiplied by x, which is going to give us 3x. And then we've got 3 multiplied by 1, which is going to give us 3. Now we need to add these together, or group them together, to see whether our equation matches. So we've got 2x squared. Now that's the only number there with an indices, so therefore it can't be grouped with any of the others. So we're just going to stick with 2x squared. Then we're going to add our x's together. So we've got a 2x and a 3x. That's going to give us plus 5x. And then we've got the 3 on its own, so we've got plus 3 at the end. So our equation is 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, which doesn't match our original equation. Therefore, we know that we've made a mistake somewhere along the lines. So I'm going to get out my trusty eraser and just get rid of... I've just got a highlighter, I do apologise. I was like, what's going on there? So we're just going to get rid of all of this. Sorry about that. And we know that that plus 3 is incorrect and that plus 1 is incorrect there as well. So let's try again. We know that it cannot be, therefore, 3 multiplied by 1. We know it can't be that order. So we're going to try it with plus 1 and plus 3. Now we're going to go through the same process of expanding and then seeing if we end up with the same equation at the start. And if we do, then we've got the correct numbers in the correct order. So we're going to start off with 2x multiplied by x, which is going to give us 2x squared. Then we've got 2x multiplied by 3, which is going to give us 6x. Then we've got 1 multiplied by x, which is going to give us 1x, so we would just write x. And then we've got 1 multiplied by 3, which is going to give us 3. Now we're going to group everything together, bring it back down and see if our equation matches our first one. So we start with 2x squared. It's the only one with indices, so it can't be grouped with anything else, it's on its own. Then we have 6x plus x, which is going to give us 7x. And then we've got that 3 on its own, which is 3. So we've ended up with 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. It matches our first equation, therefore we know it's correct. So like I said before, when you're working with those coefficients at the beginning of this equation, it is a bit trial and error. But as soon as you know you've tried one way, just cross it off and then try another way, and you'll get there. And that is factorising quadratic equations with those coefficients at the beginning.